Right, so welcome back to the Supra build, and in today's episode I'm going to be getting on with predominantly the oil and the oil cooler sort of situation. In the last video I got the intercooler piping sorted, which is currently literally as we speak being welded, so I can't show you that just yet, but hopefully later on in this video I'll show you them being put into place permanently. So yeah, so that's about all there is for this video at the minute, so I'm going to get on with that and I'll show you a couple of little bits. So one of the first things that I can now do is the inlet plenum and the throttle body here can now be fully installed because I've managed to weld this up. If you remember in the last video, these were just held with a bit of tape, so I've welded them and then just stuck it in the lathe and turned the welding bead out, so to speak, from this. So that is now in a position where it can be permanently mounted. I did, if you remember in the last video, showed you where the oil cooler was going to sit, which is in between the gap here between the radiator and the intercooler. Now, after looking at it, I'm just going to stand here out in the sun because it's really hot. After looking at it, the oil cooler was a bit too big. It was a 24 or 25 row, I can't remember what it was. So it was just a bit too big for what I wanted, really. So I got back in touch with Motormech, which is now Motorsport Tools, I think they go by. I got in touch with them, even though I'd got rid of the packaging and this, that and the other, and just asked them, said, would you take it back and swap it for a 19 row? And luckily for me, they've said yes. So I can't say thanks more than enough for that, really. So now that I've got my 19 row oil cooler, I can get to fitting it. So, but before I do that, there's one thing I do need to do. Because the oil cooler's going down here, in between that gap, the oil lines are going to go underneath and up to where the oil exits underneath the inlet manifold there. So all of that inlet manifold has to come off. And if you remember, there's the water cooler, heater, oil, I can't remember what it's called now, but they have a specific name. But it's where your oil and your water mixes and keeps each other cool. So I need to get under there. You can just about see the bolt here where my finger is. So all of that housing in there needs to come off, and then I can get installing that hell thermostatic sandwich plate. So let's just get to it. So there we have it. So that is all of the new oil filter stuff that I'm going to need. The oil filter, the oil cooler, the sandwich plate, all the AN fittings that are going to be required to install this thing where I want it. The hose here probably isn't enough, but it's all I could afford at the moment. But luckily over there in the corner you can see there's a pile of braided line. So I do have some spare, just in case I need it. Now I know this one's black, so the black coated stainless one I'm going to do inside of the engine bay, so that'd be the part in which you'll see, so obviously I wanted it black. And the braided, normal braided stuff I'm going to take from the oil cooler to the side of the radiator. So all the radiator, the intercooler, it's all silver anyway, because it's aluminium, obviously. So it'll sort of blend in down there, and then once it comes into the engine bay and up to where that new sandwich plate is, everything else in there is black, so it'll blend in with that. So hopefully I've got enough, which I sort of calculated it with a bit of rope. So hopefully that'll be enough. But yes, so technically, just let me move this out of the way and then you can see it a bit clearer. So the oil cooler itself, self-explanatory, it's like a mini radiator. I'm going to have the two 90-degree fittings coming off of that, which will all make sense in a minute, heading towards the chassis rail, and it's going to go under the chassis rail and then up underneath the plenum to this, where that's going to be located on the side of the engine. Now this fan here, it was initially bought for the other oil cooler I had, which was a lot taller. I think it came to about here actually, and that fitted absolutely perfectly. But now I've gone smaller. That thing is obviously a lot bigger, but I can make it fit. It's not the end of the world. So it's just now time to get out to the car, see where things want to sit and fit, and go from there basically. But I think the first thing I need to do is get that inlet plenum taken off the car and get all that oil cooler, water cooler situation out of the way, and then we can go from there. So if I remember correctly, I only put this on with 2 nuts anyway, so that one's not got one on at that end, so I think it's literally just this one here. Let me shift that out of the way. So that can sit up there. So now you can see exactly what I mean. So I need to unbolt this, and then all of this big, horrible, ugly unit here can be removed and taken out of the way. So I don't know what size you are, but I need to get a socket on there and unbolt that. I think it's about a 22 looking at it. And there we have it. So that is that part off. But I'm sort of thinking I need an adapter from there to this new Hell sandwich plate, which I haven't got. So I'm just going to go and have a look. So yeah, unfortunately I don't have the correct fitment for it. So as you can see on the back of the Hell thing there, it's threaded. So I need an adapter stud. So basically, just let me show you on here. So the bolt that just came out of it, that threaded stud end there, I need just the threaded stud part, if you know what I mean, not the entire bolt. So I'm going to have to go online and find one of those. It's not going to stop me doing what I need to do today, but I can't fit my Hell cooler sandwich plate there, unfortunately, at the minute. So, yeah. Tell you what, nothing ever goes smoothly, does it? But anyway, right, so I've just ordered one of those studs, so unfortunately I've got to wait for that to turn up before I can fit that sandwich plate. There's always something that crops up. This is why I'm doing these videos, just to show you real life stuff, not like some of the other sort of Instagrammers, YouTubers, TikTokers, all this sort of stuff where everything just goes to plan first thing they fucking try, you know. Obviously for me, different oil cooler, different this, different that. Fan now doesn't fit, all sorts of this sort of shit, you know what I mean? It happens in real life. So yeah, so I've ordered that stud, so hopefully I've ordered it next day, but it's already like 3 o'clock, so I might have missed this afternoon's post, so it's probably going to turn up Friday now. So hopefully in the next clip it'll be here, but for now I can be getting on with this. So as you can see, the oil cooler is here, so I'm just going to make a start installing these couple of these AN fittings. Now these AN fittings, the 90s, I already had just sat in a box on the shelf. If I can get this one started, there we go. Again, tricky with one hand, but all of these are brand new. So these are all from, like I said, they're from Motormech. They do, I don't know how they manage to do it, but the quality of the fittings just seem to be a lot better than some of the others that you can just get, which are the same price. So yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. So I got myself a cheap filter, because once the engine is up and running, the running in miles, it doesn't need a dead expensive filter going on there. There's just no point, because you're going to take it off after 1,000 miles anyway and chuck it in the bin. So, so yes, so this is my idea, so bear with me, I'll take you back out to the car and show you. So yeah, so I was going to make some mounting plates that go in between here and then clamp to here, so bolt to this new panel basically. Have the AN lines going across the bottom. I know ideally I'd like the panel the other way up, because then if you ever have to take it off and you undo them, it's just going to drain oil out everywhere. But because of this gap here, it's the only way I can sort of do it at the minute. So I was going to take them 90 degrees straight across, link them up to bulkhead fitting. So this would have to move over a little bit further for this end, but then the bulkhead fittings would sort of go through the gap there, and they'd be mounted on a plate, so to speak. But this edge of the radiator just here, it's as deep as what you can see there, so I need to trim a little bit at the end of the radiator off. So I can either do it that way, or I can kick the 90-degree fittings outwards slightly. Can't take them too far because the intercooler is going here, and then take the hoses out and around there and have the AN fittings sort of like that. But now that I've got on a smaller cooler, I didn't think about this, because I was originally going to install the cooler in here, but because of where the intercooler pipes sit, it was too big. But now I've got a smaller cooler, it might fit there. But I can't try that until I get my intercooler pipes, which Dave, my welder, he is literally currently on with welding those at the minute, because he actually sent us a text message earlier on. So I might wait till I get those back and then see what I've got to play with. So hopefully in the next clip I'll have that, and then I'll be able to show you what I mean. So yeah, so today's little shenanigans hasn't gone to plan really, has it? So I tell you, nothing ever just goes to plan. So since that little clip there, I have in fact got my intercooler back and all the intercooler piping. So as you can see, I've just quickly put everything back in place. The intercooler is now mounted. As you can see, oil cooler's just sat on top for the time being. But getting back to the sandwich plate, I just used a cardboard tube and the original bolt for now, just to hold it in place. I have ordered a stud for this, but as of yet it's still not turned up. So as you can see, the AN fittings are on the bottom here, so I need to kick them off. I think they're at 45 degrees, the ones I've got for it. So this is going to fire off the braided lines underneath, heading underneath the chassis rail here, which will then bring it under the car and through to where the oil cooler is going to be sat. Now, I've been looking at that oil cooler location, and where I was going to take the pipes through the side of that radiator, I've not got enough room. So now that the intercooler is back in place, I've got even less space in which I can do it. So you can just see through that gap there, that's the area that I've got to take them through. So instead of doing it that way, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off this metal plate here, which is the towing eye. So there's a towing point there, as you can see. There is another towing point on this side, so there's always still one at the front. But if I remove that, it gives me a bit more space to bring the AN lines through this gap here, and then down and underneath, and aim them towards that sandwich plate. So I think that's the plan. Right, so I've been racking my brain over this for a while. I just can't come up with a nice happy space that I'm happy with where the oil cooler is going to sit. So as it stands there, I need the AN lines to go around the side of this bracket here. But obviously I've then got a big convoluted area that I need to get the AN line to. So there is going to be an absolute pain in the bum. This bit won't be too bad because you can just sweep it down and do it. But from here, trying to get it all around it without making hard lines, which I'm not going to bother doing. I just can't be bothered with that. I just want to get this car up and running as soon as possible now, because it's starting to do me head in a bit. I'm going to mount the cooler over this side, and then it's always got air being drawn through it from the big viscous fan drawing air through the radiator. And then from here to there, it's just a nice sweep of AN line down to here. So I hope I've got enough line, which I'm pretty sure I do. But the next thing I need to do is get some mounts made up for this so that I can actually get it mounted into place. Right, so off camera there, I've made up some brackets, got them welded into place. These are like hangers, so the oil cooler sits underneath. I've put some riv nuts on the actual oil cooler itself. I didn't film all that because I just want to get on with it in a way. I'll have some better stuff to film later on other than making little crappy brackets. So now that that's in place, I'm just going to get it painted, and then I've got my little lad to pick up from school, and hopefully when I get back after that, this paint will be dry, and then I can get on with the AN lines, and that's where it gets a little bit more interesting. So yeah. And so there we go, that is the oil cooler just put into place now. As you can see, it's nice and firm, there's no wobble to that. And also, since doing that, I've also had the delivery of the new stud, so that threaded stud. So now I can get to fit in this properly. So oil seal on the inside there. That goes over there like that. Just hold that there for a moment. Where did I put that nut now? Ah, no, where have I put it? Oh, it's there. So yeah, and then that goes into there and then screws on to the end of that stud. Like so. Clock that to where you need it, and then obviously I'll tighten that down properly, but then this part here, your oil filter just screws onto that. So yeah, nice and tidy. So these AN lines here that you can see at the bottom, there and there, they're going to come out and around here and meet up to the AN fittings that I'm going to install around here. That are going to do 90 degrees outside at chassis and then across to the cooler. I know it seems a long way round to go, but it's like the best I can do because it won't fit where I wanted it to originally. So, and at least it's going to have a constant draw with a viscous fan pulling air through the radiator as well. So it should be alright, it should be good for me. So anyway, AN lines next. Right, so with the oil cooler, as you can see, that last little clip, believe it or not, it's a couple of days after that clip. So yeah, so the oil cooler is fitted, the sandwich plate was put on the engine block, and I said I was going to take the AN lines down the side of this radiator here. Now the eagle eye amongst you will see that I have actually trimmed the edge off of that radiator there, and I did bash it here, but I've not broken it, I've just dented a few fins. But yeah, there's still just not enough space there to take the AN fitting through there where I wanted to. So I've made a bracket here which now holds the AN lines where I need them. As you can see on that end, I've got the 90 degree fittings. So this is like a bulkhead fitting rather than a 90 degree AN fitting, if you know what I mean. So yeah, so that's that done. So the next job to do is to get the oil lines from here up to the cooler, and from that cooler down to this bottom line, and then the same things from the end of the bulkhead fittings here underneath the chassis rail here, and then up to, I think you can just make it out, that bit there's the oil cooler AN lines. So you can see the route in which I'm going to have to take to get to it. So yeah, there's only one thing for it now, and that's to start with the AN lines. And there we go. Didn't show you any of the making out of AN lines because I've done that in the past. So this is it, finished. So as you can see, I've now got all the AN lines installed. I've got some little spacers here to make sure that the pipes stay at the right distance to stop wobbling about. There's the corner piece that I was on about. I might take it off and just chamfer the edges of this plate, and then it's not sharp if I ever need to stick my hand in anywhere to get access to anything. But yeah, 90 degree fittings, and it goes to the black braided down here. As you can see, there's another two spacers there. And then it comes up through the engine bay there and into the sandwich plate. So yeah, in terms of the oil cooler, that's now it fitted. I've got a couple of little things left to do in this video, and then I'll be calling it quits. But the main thing is it's just going to be painting. I have in fact got a new power steering pump reservoir, so I've got that one up there, which is the original GTE one. Let me squeeze around here so I can grab it. So this one here, it used to attach, let me get hold of it, I think, where was it now? It used to attach on the side of here, somewhere like that anyway. But because the inlet plenum is now there, this sort of gets in the way. So obviously this is a nice burnt bronze colour. So the new one that I've got, basically the bottom of that large hose there where it comes out of the bottom of this reservoir, it's off an NA model, so that it goes straight into that hole. So I'll just go grab it. So there you go, so that's the difference between the two. The actual reservoirs are the same size, give or take. I'm pretty sure they're identical. Yeah, they're identical. But like I said, the difference between them is the outlet on this here, it goes to rubber hose. Because of the straight inlet plenum of the original GTE, you can't have anything sat here because that's where the intake is. So they moved it over there and then run hoses to the pump. Whereas on the NA version, so this is off a GE, that's off a GTE. So this NA version can sit right here because I've now got the plenum that cuts around here, so there's nothing in the way there. You couldn't have it that way before, obviously because of the straight inlet, and the NA has like a weird over the top sort of engine inlet manifold and all that shenanigans. So yeah, so what's next to do is to get that painted and also to get these intercooler pipes painted because at the minute they're a bit minging. And yeah, that's about it. So the next job, get them over to sandblaster and get some Cerakote out and get them sprayed up. So let's go do it. So yeah, just so you can see what I'm about. So originally that used to bolt into that corner. So now as you can see, the inlet manifold is in the way, you can't get it in. Plop that down there for a sec. Now this one here, I need to undo a few bolts on there for this to bolt up to it properly. But that now sits roughly around about there. So as you can see, it's out of the way. I will need to move this pipe, I think. Put a banjo fitting on there or something, but it's not too bad. So I might leave painting this for the time being, but I will be doing the paint on the intercooler pipes. So I'm pretty sure that's just going to need a banjo on there. So yes. So I've just decided I'll just take them bolts out really quickly and sit it into place so exactly where it's going to fit. And as you can see, that nub there is going to be extremely close. So I might just cut a little bit off it and then hopefully I'll be able to get a line to come straight off there. Not ideal, but it's only low pressure return is that one. The high pressure is this one out the bottom. So yes. So I'll just have a quick think about that before I even go ahead and start painting it. Right, so a bit of good news. Just off camera there, because I just want to get on with this car now. I've been having a bit of a play around, and as you can see, I have welded on my very own bung. So I've just made that bung on the lathe out of a bit of spare steel that I had, and I've tigged it onto there. So how good does that look? Honestly, I'm well happy with TIG welding now I've got it. Why didn't I buy one sooner? So yeah, so that's that tigged onto there now, so I can just make a banjo fitting straight for it. But before I do any painting, I need to order some more acetone because I've run out. Because obviously with the Cerakote, everything wants to be absolutely pristinely clean, otherwise it just doesn't stick properly. So I've got some of that on order, so that should be turning up in the next day or two. So that'll probably be the next clip. Right, so we've got a few bits hung up here that are all going to get Cerakoted. Obviously the turbo housing, I got another elbow welded onto it, if you remember. So I've just finished sandblasting that basically. It didn't need a massive blast on this. Excuse me a minute. Come on, catch. There we go. So yeah, it didn't need a huge blast on it because I think you can Cerakote over Cerakote. It now just needs a good wash with some acetone. But I've blasted all that bottom part, and then the face of it, I've just sort of gone over it again, just to give it a really good keying up. So all I need to do now is give that a clean in the acetone bath, make sure there's no grease on it before I paint it. So it goes the same with all these other bits. So it's basically just time to get to it and get it sprayed. And once I've got it sprayed, that'll be the end of this video. So won't be long. And there we have it. So I sprayed up all of these. Obviously I've held this one at the bottom, but that doesn't matter because it can have a tube over it, because that's the turbo drain. That's the turbo. Power steering reservoir and the 2 radiator clamps. So now that that's all of them done, just got to leave them to dry now, so they'll be ready to touch in about an hour or two. But I won't be doing that till tomorrow morning because we've got to go to work now, unfortunately. So yes, so I'll come to these in the morning, but for now that's the end of this video. So I'm going to leave it there, and I shall see you in the next one, where hopefully some of these parts will be going back on full time, permanently. Anyway, see you in the next one, and again, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, give us a subscribe. It gives me the motivation to keep going. So yeah, anyway, see you soon.